So Keir Starmer is in a totally impossible position. Since he's come into power, the press, which mostly leans to the right, and to be honest, I've always voted Tory, have been on his neck, on his tail, and his party is basically a party of protest groups, most of which, as I said to your producer, they've never run in, they've all worked in their little bubbles, and they all want their little thing, and they're all screaming. He's done some very, very good work that hasn't been promoted. Nobody in the world would be able to pull this country out of its current mess.
What's he done good? What's he done good, Jason?
The workers' rights thing, increasing salary, have both been very, very good. He's made deals back with Europe so that there's more access. Mm-hmm. He's worked very well with Donald Trump, which is no great...
Yep. Fair play.
Very few other people.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't do everything in 14 months.
Jason,
to do stuff, and this is a 10-year project.
Do you think we're too impatient, genuinely? Because I think you're right. Go on.
Yes, we are too impatient. Everybody wants. This is, a TikTok generation. Even I'm 60, and even I sort of sit there scrolling. Everybody wants everything done in 5 minutes, and it takes 14 months to get something through Parliament. They got rid of the Rwanda scheme. Fine. Yeah. It was a bit weird, and they were never going to take many people. They've just managed to agree something with France, which after telling France how horrible they have been for years, that was a major thing, and it's going to take time.
It's going to make no difference. It's going to make no difference to small boats. That come on, Jason. I mean, that's the nightclub bouncer policy, one in, one out. Oh, come on! Yes, even the people smugglers have said you're going to have to return 20,000 people to make us actually. What was it? 2,000 people a day or whatever? I can't remember, but whatever.
It is a start of a process. We take less migrants than most other countries in Europe, and we still have an awful lot of space. Not saying that I would particularly want millions more people coming into the country. I fully understand why people don't like social change, but as I live in London, it's never been an issue with me. I mean, where I live, it's like, ridiculous.
Okay. Jason,
it needs time.
Okay, Jason, let me ask you a more fundamental question. Do you think that now is the time for the Labour Party in government to do a screeching handbrake turn to the left?
No.
Why?
Because they'll lose the next election. But the problem is that the vast majority of their MPs only got behind Starmer because they thought it would get them into power. Yeah, now you've got the Andy Burnhams of this world all jumping on, all want to sort of... it's like with Tony Blair. He got them into power, and the second he was in, they started biting his back. They started to complain about him. And the problem is that most of them have no concept on how to run a country. Well, even Andy Burnham, within days, was like talking about ignoring the bond market.
Well,
how
indeed.
Do you ignore people that you owe all that money to?
Well, indeed. Well, I said yesterday that was economically illiterate, and a lot of people got very, very upset about it because it absolutely patently is. Jason, look, I don't know what the answer is for Starmer, but I think he's got to make some choices. If he wants to go leftwards, now's the time to do it, because you hear John McDonnell talking about a wealth tax, you hear Andy Burnham doing the same, and you also hear a bunch of Labour MPs, and this is the front page story in the Telegraph today, Labour ministers begging Reeves to unleash public spending. I mean, they want her to open the coffers. They don't want austerity Mark 2. And I just wonder... if he wants to do it, he should do it now, and then he's going to have to get the tax from somewhere, probably the middle class, and squeeze them to the hilt. If he doesn't want to do it, he's going to have to come up with an alternative prescription that people can get behind, but I don't think that's going to placate his supporters on the left.
There are alternative ways to get money in than a wealth tax.
Well, I agree with that, but he's hemmed himself in.
You could open up you could open up the pension funds and allow them to invest more.
Well, Jason, the simplest thing to do, which is what I would have done if I was him, and I'm not a tax raiser, but even I can understand that we're in a dire situation. Income tax would have been a very simple, straightforward way of doing it. He's ruled that out. Again this morning, he's ruled it out, saying the manifesto commitments we made will be adhered to. Now, that has hemmed him in, but we'll see what happens. Jason, very good to speak to you. Thank you.
The short answer, no, they can't. Because I know you know this, but you don't hear it from many of the presenters on LBC or in the mainstream media. There is a political revolution underway. This is not politics as usual. And in all honesty, I believe it'll be all over by next May.
Really? I mean, are you in the Nigel Farage camp? I mean, that's even 1 year before Nigel Farage thinks it will happen. He thinks it was going to happen in 2027, didn't he?
Yeah, well, I believe that too. But when I say next May, I mean that'll be the catalyst for the 2027.
I see what you mean. So if they don't do well in the local elections and in the Scottish and Welsh elections, that's going to be the catalyst, is it?
Ali, they're not going to do well in them. They're going to get annihilated, especially in Wales. Can you imagine?
Yeah, well,
the newspapers, the front pages of newspapers when Labour are absolutely wiped out in Wales.
Well, I think that is the moment of maximum danger for Keir Starmer, and he has to turn things round before then. But do you think, to the point that I was just having a conversation with Jason about, John, I mean, it's only been 14 months. I mean, we've had 14 years of woeful inadequate delivery, or lack of it, you could say, from the previous lot. I mean, you've got to give them a bit of a chance, haven't you?
I used the term revolution for a reason. It's fast becoming the people represented by Reform UK against the establishment, which is represented by the Legacy Party, Labour and Conservative. And what we're seeing is just an extension of the Legacy Party, an extension of the 14 years.
Do you think it's too fundamental, therefore? Because this argument that you're making, John, has been made by other people who have now observed that not only in this country but in many others around the world, the liberal, centrist, progressive movement, call it what you will, sensible Tories, sensible Labour people, Lib Dems chucked in the mix, all basically different sides of the same coin. And that is just simply not going to hold. The centre is not going to hold. People are moving towards the outer bounds, and one of those outer bounds is reform. Is that what you think is going to happen here?
That is exactly what's going to happen. And I'm surprised that the media haven't picked up that there is a turquoise revolution underway.
Well, if there is, John, and you may well be right, what would your advice be this weekend to Sir Keir Starmer, who is fighting for his political life?
My advice to him is not to bother. He can save himself a lot of time, a lot of energy, and the Labour Party a lot of money if they just give up.
Do you think he should just go? Do you think he should just go back? You think he should just go back to the bar?
Yeah, because like next May, it will become clear. I know now it may not be that clear. But come next May, the results of the elections next May, it will become clear to everyone. Well, and media are behind the curve on this, Ali.
Well, look, I think that there are definitely shifts occurring, which is exactly why you see that Reform UK, apparently, according to an article out today, is on course to win a majority of the next election, according to a poll that predicts Labour is heading for the worst electoral defeat since 1931, with fewer than 100 seats. This is conducted by the think tank More in Common. Poll of almost 20,000 voters, and Luke Trill, very sensible individual, Luke Trill, friend of the programme and director of More in Common, said, and I quote, Nigel Farage has completely upended the political map of Britain. But we're not talking about Farage today, we're talking about the Labour Party, and the Labour Party has got to do something in response to that. John, very good to speak to you.
I think it's going to be very difficult for Labour to turn it round unless they have a robust way forward. I did 45 years in the military, and we had three types of leaders. One was an autocratic, which wasn't very good. One was a bimbler that just listened to everyone. And the other one that consulted and made a good decision based on experience.
Which one's Starmer?
And then I think he's one that's in the middle. He dithers, he consults, and then takes whatever is the strongest opinion against him. He doesn't listen and then make his own decision. And the other thing which was critical was that you have people that do policy very well, and you do people that do people very well. There's very few leaders that do both very well.
That's a good point. That's a really interesting
And I think Starmer is a policy person, and all the other great leaders have the ability to do both. Even if you've got Cameron, Blair, they have the ability. And also the government, I think, if you look at Angela Rayner, David Lammy, they all fall back to what they're used to. So there's no experience on the economy. Angela Rayner fell back to the unions. David Lammy fell back to Chagos Islands. Keir Starmer's fell back to policy. So there's none of that broad experience that you had previously.
But Robert, I understand your point about the three types of leadership that you mentioned, and you mentioned the fact that you think that he is one of these bumblers in the middle who consults and dithers and all the rest of it, and he's more focused on policy than people. I don't really mind if he's focused on policy and he's a technocrat. At least be a decent technocrat and go and do something. At the moment, the problem is, on your dithering point, Robert, I'm a bit confused about whether he wants to unleash welfare or do the two-child benefit cap and scrap it, or whether he's trying to curb welfare. I don't know where he is at the moment.
Yeah, and the three things that he's picked up on, which is security, economics, and the third one, which was immigration. Yeah. Who gave him that advice a couple of weeks ago? That's exactly three things that Trump said.
I mean, that's an interesting point. Let me ask you this, Robert, because, you see, Starmer, I think, showed that he understands the gravity of the situation the country faces. Economically, certainly. Socially, I think we've got deep, profound problems as well on cohesion at the moment. But let's just stick with the economics for a second. On the welfare reform side of things, I think he understood that we need to get more people into work. We can't be going on with this PIP at the level that we have. He tried to do something about it, and he completely had his legs cut from under him by his own backbenchers. Was that a failure to sell a vision? Was it a failure to bring people and roll the pitch? What was it? Because I think he was onto something there, but heaven knows what's going to happen to welfare reform now.
Yeah. What it was, you make a decision and stick by it.
But he can't do it if you stick by it if he can't get the votes from his own party to get it through Parliament. He's got to persuade them.
Then you've got to win the argument. You've still got to have that vision. And I think it's just the way that they've handled the demonstrations, how they've policed both demonstrations, and I'm not getting into left or right. I think it's the pensions, and I agree with you. I think child benefit, I'm an old age pensioner myself, and PIP should go to the most deserved. I think if you're on £1,000 a year, you shouldn't get child benefit.
Why isn't he talking about things, for example, like scrapping the triple lock on pensions? I know that pensioners vote, and this is partly, look, young people out there, if you're listening, you really need to start voting, right? Because you're going to be always disenfranchised unless you get off your backside and go to the ballot box, right? So why is he not talking about pension reform? Because we need to look at the triple lock very carefully, and many other things if we're going to balance the books here.
Yeah, well, it's courage, isn't it? And the reason Reform are in this position is because the left come out with the policies on immigration. The left always tried to stop the planes. It's clear. Money on the hotels. Money about the hotels is a bit of a red herring because that's just coming out of the foreign aid budget.
Well, indeed. And look, the left is making the running at the moment in terms of the argument. How he's going to respond, we'll find out, I guess, over the next couple of days. Robert, thank you. Karen in Chippenham. Good afternoon, Karen.
Good afternoon, Ali. Hello. Well, I think it would be true to say that the Labour Party, especially the current one under Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, it's no longer the party of the trades unions. It's no longer the party of working classes. It's not the party of small and medium-sized businesses or the party of small family farms. Neither is it the party of fairness and opportunity for the less privileged and the disadvantages. And for years, governments, including the current one, they've crushed the aspirations of working people. They've crushed the aspirations of young people who can't afford to get on the housing ladder. They've crushed the aspirations of young people who've worked really hard for qualifications and paid a lot of money in their university tuition fees, but then offered and can't get secure jobs and careers that they can really dedicate themselves to and be really, really passionate about. And, I'm reminded, and we listened to the General Secretary of the Unite Union earlier today, but about 3 decades ago, and after Tony Blair became leader of the Labour Party, possibly even the first conference after they came to power, I can't remember, but I remember a BBC News clip of Rodney Bickerstaff, who was then General Secretary of the Unite Union, on the stage at the conference, giving a speech, really standing up for working people and the underprivileged. And he said that the current, possibly they weren't in government by then, he said the government, all they're doing is promising jam tomorrow. And the BBC cameras, they panned across to Neil Kinnock and his wife actually in the audience, who ever so angrily were shaking their heads and disagreeing with Rodney Bickerstaff. But all these, practically 3 decades later, I'm so angry and upset about this. All this time later, this Labour government, they're still promising jam tomorrow. Well, we know they're never going to fulfil that promise. And meanwhile, on Friday, Starmer, he thought he could solve all the problems of government by introducing this digital ID system.
Yeah, I know. You talked about it yesterday.
That's rubbish. That he was. I mean, it's a small number of illegal immigrants compared to the total number of immigrants into this country. So I'd like to know how many billions of pounds, or even tens of billions of pounds, are going to be spent on this system. To solve just one problem.
Karen, please don't ask obvious questions like how much it's going to cost and whether we've got the money to do it. I mean, this is just too obvious a question to ask, Karen. I mean, no one in government clearly has thought about this. I mean, we've got 2.7 trillion of public debt. I mean, let me just read you the front page of The Economist this week, The Economist newspaper. Britain is slowly going bust. And according to one leading hedge fund manager, he says the country is in a debt doom loop. I mean, the problem is with all this spending, and I understand the point, Karen, that you're making, a lot of people on the left are making about, wanting to give people a better life and all of it. I get it. But then you have to work out where the money's going to come from to do it. If that's going to be a wealth tax, come out and say it. If it's going to be increasing income tax and you're going to renege on your commitments that you made in the manifesto, do that too. But we can't square the circle as we are. We need some honesty and some transparency, and we need it fast. Karen, thank you for your call.